We're down here at Branford Point for Save the Sound, Take the Plunge. The only people taking the plunge right now are these large swans, and this guy looks like he's not enjoying my company here, but I'm going to try to reach in without getting nipped to feel how cold the water is, because actually people are going to be coming down in their bathing suits, taking a plunge, and these are folks that are going to be raising money to help fight Broadwater. So I'm just going to take a little dip in here and see how it is. And actually, it's not too bad. It's probably, I would say, about 45 degrees or so. It's pretty warm, so the plungers are going to have an easy day here. We're close to low tide. Tide obviously coming in. We've got some dignitaries also coming in town. Senator Joseph Lieberman will be here, and he'll be speaking about what we can do as citizens to help preserve Long Island Sound. We're here down at Branford Point, and one of the founders of this organization, Save the Sound, is Lonnie Reed. Good morning, Lonnie. How are we doing?
Hey, Pete. How are you? It's great to see you down here on a great day.
It's nice and warm. This isn't. Yeah. This is going to be an easy plunge for these polar bears today.
I know. We were hoping to be taking axes and carving through the ice and making it really visually exciting and challenging. But still, I mean, this is cold water, so this is a good thing.
Tell us about this event.
This is the Broadwater Polar Plunge, and the idea here is that those of us, and there's a large contingent, all kinds of people who are opposed to putting a 1,200-foot long industrial barge in Long Island Sound, are gathering and reminding people that this could still happen, and that FERC, which is a 5-member commission, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is holding its final public hearings this week, meaning Tuesday.
It's going to be in New London.
September 9th in New London. Next week, Tuesday the 16th, right here in Branford at Branford High School. So we want everybody to get out and voice their opposition and let everybody know that we have alternatives for getting natural gas and LNG into this region, and Broadwater is something we do not need and we do not want.
How many plungers do you think we have coming today?
I think at least 20, and of course, you know, we have the Attorney General, the Connecticut Attorney General, Dick Blumenthal, who is the ultimate in the interactive politician.
Will he be plunging today?
He is plunging. He is plunging, so we're very excited about that. And U.S. Senator Joe Lieberman is going to signal the plungers into the water. And, you know, we've got the full support of the entire delegation to the U.S. Congress. Both of our U.S. senators, all of our Congress people oppose Broadwater, not because we're anti-energy industry haters, but because we know there are better ways, faster, safer, smarter ways to get gas into our region and to make sure that we actually have affordable energy.
Lonnie, can you give us an idea of how large this barge is going to be filled with the liquid natural gas?
It is going to be 1,200 feet long, which is 4 football fields, and at least 8 stories tall and about 200 feet wide. It comes equipped. They're going to have to dig into the Sound a 22-mile-long trench of piping. They're going to dig piping into the Sound in order to send this gas into another existing pipeline that we have off of the town of Milford. So we're getting a barge, we're getting a pipe, we're getting things we don't need.
And that's going to be environmental. It'll be a disaster.
Environmentally, it's got nothing but negative impacts. It creates no-go zones. In other words, for terrorist reasons, we have to keep people away from the barge and away from the lanes that the big tankers will need to go to and from the barge. So, in essence, people who use the Sound recreationally, people who use the Sound for fishing industries, are going to have to be barred from certain zones around this thing. It's a private industry that's going to make a fortune in our public waters, and we say no.
Well, not only will it be an environmental disaster, obviously you said it's a target for terrorists, but we're also going to have to look at this, and we're only 12 to 18 miles across the Sound. Lonnie, can you tell the folks of New York and Connecticut how they can get behind this?
Well, there are several ways. My favorite way is to go to savethesound.org. Savethesound.org. This is this umbrella organization that's fabulous, public advocates for Long Island Sound, and they will tell you a million ways to get involved. We'd love to have you show up at the hearings. We'd love to have you rally when we rally, and you can find out exactly when all that's happening on savethesound.org. We'd love to have you write to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. They will tell you how to do that on savethesound.org. There are many ways to do it. And call your congresspeople, call your senators, and call your state legislators too, because they are very much opposed to it, and there are lots of state legislation initiatives about alternative energy and doing some smart stuff about, cutting this addiction to foreign fuels.
Lonnie Reed, thank you for all your great work. It's good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Great to see you, and thanks for coming out.
Okay, thanks.
I read an article in the Times about this proposal. I had to read it about 4 or 5 times. I couldn't believe.
You thought it might have been fiction.
Exactly, yeah, or it wasn't in Long Island Sound, it was some other sound. And I had to read. So what came out of that was a petition that Lonnie Reed and I put together, which became a resolution of the RTM back then, that went to Attorney General Blumenthal.
Who will be taking the plunge too?
I understand.
You got to outlast him out there, Dick.
He's younger than I am. Not much, but he's younger.
Okay.
And of course, Lonnie has taken it over from there. But the safety concerns aside, and there really are safety concerns, otherwise, why would they be putting this thing in the middle of Long Island Sound? What really bothers me is that this is really the first commercialization of the sound. I mean, this is an industrial use of what is really Connecticut and Long Island's prime asset, which is Long Island Sound, and that's bothersome. It really is. I mean, after this, then what? We have the pipeline, we have this facility, and you got to assume that if this facility goes in, heaven forbid, that there'll be more after that. So,
and each time we defeat these folks in court, they just keep getting up. It's like a prize fighter that's knocking someone down, and the guy just keeps getting up with their big attorneys and their mighty might. But we got to keep fighting, Dick.
We got to do it at the grassroots. The decision, I think, has been made in some of the corridors of Washington to do this. But it hasn't been made in Branford, I know that.
Well, Dick, I wish you luck out there, and we hope to see you out there for at least 3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's a challenge.
And pulling a few of those fine Long Island Branford clams while you're out there.
I hope I'm not down that deep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Yep.
My name's Kate Johnson.
Kate and?
Charlie Johnson.
And?
And Shirley Johnson.
Now, what's your relationships?
This is my father and my grandmother.
Wow. Okay, so we have 3 generations of plungers. This has got to be a first. And who do we have here? Are they related at all?
No, they're not. But this is Abby, and this is Rufus.
Rufus, how are you, Rufus?
And they're the only ones that aren't going to mind this.
Will Rufus be taking the plunge?
I imagine so. He tested the water yesterday, and he said it felt great.
Okay. Did he get pledges from the neighborhood cats and dogs?
He did not, unfortunately. They didn't quite understand what the pledges meant.
No kibbles and bits. But anyway, we're going to thank you guys for coming out. It looks like you're having a little fun, and it's almost like a summer day here in Branford, isn't it?
It sure is. It's beautiful.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it. We've got here Senator Edward Meyer. Good morning, Senator Meyer. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, I think.
Okay.
My wife tells me there's something the matter up in my brain to be here today and doing this, but I think I'm going to make a statement by this act of plunging.
I don't feel so tall anymore. Usually I'm looking down at my guests and so forth. You'll be taking the plunge.
Be taking the plunge to make a statement about the great resource of Long Island Sound, and that we must fight for it and preserve it. And as I said, my wife thinks I'm a little bit touched to be doing this, but I think it's right on.
Have you done anything like this before?
I've never done a polar plunge. This is my.
How about in the Hudson River?
I did. I've been swimming the Hudson River, but not in a polar plunge. This is first.
Not this time of year.
How
warm or cold is that water?
Well, I just went in and to feel it, and as you can see, my hands are absolutely frozen. It's about it's in the low 40s.
Okay.
And it takes a lot of courage to do this.
You have to watch out for hypothermia.
And your watcher should know that all of us are doing this. And we got the Attorney General of Connecticut right here. We got the first select woman, and she says she's not taking the plunge.
No, Mr. Sullivan looks much better in a bathing suit than I do. I relegated that. Mr. Sullivan looks much better in a bathing suit than I do, and so I've delegated that task to him, and he's pleased to do it. He's looking forward to it.
Well, obviously, you've never seen Mr. Sullivan in a bathing suit. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. We have our Attorney General, Richard Blumenthal. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm very pleased to be here with Senator Meyer and the First Selectman, Cheryl Morris. You know, I think it's really symbolic and tremendously important that the town of Branford is so firmly united in this way, and that there's so many, not only public officials, but ordinary citizens here to make this statement about the importance of Long Island Sound to the entire state. And I think we're going to be going in the Sound to say this water belongs to us, not to Broadwater, not to anyone who wants to industrialize it. It belongs to the citizens of Connecticut, and we're going to make sure that it isn't desecrated or degraded by an environmental atrocity and a security risk.
Obviously, there's many, many concerns. What do you feel is the number one concern?
My main concern is the irreversible damage that would be done by this project. Once it's there, it would be almost impossible to undo the damage, let alone the threats from terrorists. It's an accident waiting to happen, and the destruction of ecosystems and other environmental resources. The Long Island Sound is a national treasure. It's not just a convenient commercial waterway, although the impact on commercial navigation would be very severe. But take the tankers alone that are necessary to supply Broadwater. They would be surrounded by exclusion zones, miles wide. Every time one of those tankers goes through the Long Island Sound, it would disrupt recreational and commercial use of it. So the impact on quality of life, on our economy, on our environment is just unacceptable.
You know, there's another side to it, too, that the Attorney General has been working on, and that is the fact that outrageously the rights of our state have been cut off. The Congress of the United States in March of 2005 enacted a statute that preempted the states, that said that the federal agency would have sole authority with respect to liquid natural gas. And we're urging our new Congress now, and we have some terrific new representatives in the Congress, to change that law so we here in Connecticut do have a voice. We lost our voice.
What do you think the feeling is down in Washington among the congressmen and senators?
Oh, I think it's changed from what it was before. Joe Courtney has told me that he will fight to change the law so that the states do have a say in this again. Other newly elected congressmen have come down with the same position. So I think we have a fighting chance of changing it. Also, we have a new governor in New York. Eliot Spitzer is not happy with Broadwater. And
well, that's a great thing.
I was at his inauguration last week, and you know, he might have a different say than George Pataki had. Pataki was for it. The new governor's against it.
So the opinion in Albany has changed.
The opinion at the top has changed.
Okay. Well, guys, I wish you a lot of luck. Good luck plunging. Always nice to see you.
If we don't make it, we're going to be looking for you to drag us out.
Cheryl, we'll see you there next year, and Dick will be their cheerleader.
Okay.
Good.
Senator Meyer.
Yes.
Always good to see you.
What a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
And it would be cause us a security risk, and the taxpayers would pay a burden in terms of dealing with those security issues. For all those reasons, we are opposed, and we should not have this facility. We will make our arguments felt strongly in Washington.
Rosa, I'm always happy that you do your homework. Thank you so much for coming down on this beautiful day. Always good to see you.
Thanks a lot. Take care. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
To find out more about what you can do, and we want to remind everybody that FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, a 5-member commission appointed by the President, it's on its way to our neighborhoods for their final phase of public hearings. They're going to be here this Tuesday in New London at 7 o'clock at Mitchell College. They're going to be here in Branford at Branford High School Tuesday, January 16th at 7 o'clock. We want you all to turn out, tell your friends, tell everybody, and also when you go on SaveTheSound.org, that will give you this information in detail, and it has a link to the FERC website that will enable you to write a letter and send it to FERC in addition. Okay, I've teed it up, and we're going to start with Leah Lopez Schmaltz, who is the legislative director of Save the Sound, and where would we be without Leah? Here she is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out today. I'd like to applaud the leadership of our federal, state, and local elected officials. Right here, let's try this way. Attorney General Blumenthal, Senator Lieberman, Congresswoman DeLauro, and the entire Connecticut, New York, Long Island Sound delegation, our elected officials who are with us today, Senator Fasano and Senator Stillman, for all of their tireless work on this cause. I would also like to extend a special thanks to Hands Across the Pond and Lonnie Reed, and all of you dedicated citizens who are willing to get cold and wet, although maybe not so cold today, in Long Island Sound while we can still freely use its waters. There's an overload of LNG proposals in North America right now, and energy experts estimate that 6 of every 7 will not be built. The truth is, LNG has become a global commodity, and supplies go to the highest bidder. All you have to do is ask the people in Louisiana who built a brand new LNG facility, only to find out earlier this week that their supplies were being rerouted to Asia because it could pay more. Broadwater may think they can build a plant, but events this week show that they can't guarantee a supply. Even if we want to play odds in the LNG gamble, 2 facilities being built in Canada and 2 proposals approved in Massachusetts will more than triple what Broadwater is proposing to provide the Northeast. And they could deliver it 2 years before Broadwater is even built. If we really want to secure our energy future here in Connecticut, there are smarter, independent, and cheaper ways to do it. According to ISO statistics, conservation and energy efficiency would cost 3 times less than traditional fuels. That means regular folks like you and me will be saving money, but Broadwater doesn't like that. Why? Because that puts the money in our pockets, not theirs. Broadwater is the wrong project in the wrong place at the wrong time. Long Island Sound is our regional heritage and a national treasure. It is owned by the citizens of New York and Connecticut, and no portion of its water should be handed over to a private energy conglomerate for their exclusive use. After all, it's our water, not Broadwater.
Okay, before I introduce our guest speaker, we need the plungers to start assembling right over here. Right over here behind me, to my right, facing the sound. And we're going to go in. I think people will be gathering over here to tell you exactly where you're going to go in. We're going to make this fast, so don't worry, and get over and get ready to go. Now, one of the plungers we've got going in, you know, this gentleman has taken the whole interactive game to a whole new level. Our Attorney General, where would we be without him? A warrior for the sound and for just about every other issue that you could possibly think of. A major multitasker, put us on his to-do list today, and we're very excited to have him. And he's going in, folks. He's going in. The Attorney General, Dick Blumenthal.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have never disrobed publicly in front of a United States Senator. But for Joe Lieberman and Rosa you know, I would give Joe Lieberman the shirt off my back, and I've offered him my swimsuit today. But he's wiser than I am, which shows why he's a United States Senator. And I just want to say, I have not explored the law on succession. I don't know who replaces me as Attorney General if I fail to come out. But I'm going to be out. And the reason is I want to continue fighting Broadwater along with you. We will not let Broadwater happen in the state of Connecticut. And, you know, I'm here with the rest of you to say that the sound belongs to us. In January or July, whether we swim in it, boat in it, simply love it, we're not going to let it be degraded and desecrated by a bunch of utility, corporate, international owners that simply want to profit at the expense of our environment and our security. Broadwater is an accident waiting to happen, an environmental atrocity, a threat to our security, a terrorist threat, and we're simply not going to let it happen. We're going to fight in FERC. We're going to go to court. We're going to fight in the environmental agencies of New York and Connecticut, in every forum where we can carry this fight, including the United States Congress. And I know that Rosa DeLauro and Joe Lieberman have been behind us every step of the way in this fight. I want to thank them for their leadership and their courage. But ultimately, and Pat Widlitz and Ed Meyer, Len Fasano have all been there as well, ultimately it is the people of Connecticut and our nation that are going to make the critical difference in this fight. And I want to say to Cheryl Morris, the first select woman who is here today, and the people of Branford, you are not alone. You're near us, but you will never be alone in this fight. We're going to go on, we're going to win, and we're going to come back here on a summer day, and we're all going to swim in the Sound. Thank you so much.
All right, I also want to mention that our state senator, Ed Meyer, is here. He's going in. I see he's all red, white, and blue as usual, and he's ready to swim. And Representative Pat Widlitz is here. First Selectwoman is here. Dick Sullivan, our second selectman, is going in the water too. And the captain of the Branford High School swim team, Brendan Conlon, is going in. So people of all ages who really care about the Sound. Okay, you just heard from one of our warriors. Another person you can ask the question, what would we do without this particular individual, can be asked about. One of the great warriors in the U.S. Congress, somebody whom I've been out with on boats, who actually dragooned Congressman Bishop from Long Island into coming through the Thimble Islands and giving him a real look at what might happen if we would allow another of these projects to come through. Only for her would he have made this trip. And she just fights for us in every way possible, and she has such an articulate and strong voice. I give you our own Congresswoman, Rosa DeLauro.
Thank you very, very much, Lonnie. And unlike my stalwart and courageous colleague, the Attorney General, I am not going to disrobe, and I'm not jumping in. But we have great representation here today, and they're representing me and the Sound as well. I'm delighted to be here. And the reason why is because it is our water. It is not Broadwater. And that's what we want to continue to say here today. What a crowd. Delighted to be here with Lonnie, with Leah, with Dick Blumenthal, with Joe Lieberman, our United States Senator, with Cheryl, with Ed, with Pat Widlitz, the whole crew going and who have been on that front line making this happen. I want to say we need to clap for this crowd here. We're going to talk briefly, guys, so you don't freeze to death here. Thank you. Brave and hardy souls you are. One reason why we're here today, the core of what this is all about is because it is about preserving our way of life. It is preserving the environmental and the economic health of the Long Island Sound. This would set us back. This facility would roll us back to a place where we have worked hard and spent a lot of money to move forward on in dealing with the Long Island Sound. We know what FERC did. We know about the draft environmental impact statement. We expected nothing more from them. And it was disappointing, but you know what? We have this public comment period. It starts up on the 9th, and we're going to be there with one strong, unified voice to talk about our opposition to this facility. We're going to do it all over this state. I know our delegation is going to be writing to Chairman Kelleher about this. Let me just lay it straight out for you. Why would we be for? And it's the reason why we are in opposition to a facility that doesn't provide the energy needs for Connecticut and New York. There are other projects and opportunities to provide that kind of energy assistance. It would industrialize the Long Island Sound. It violates the public trust doctrine, which is there for us in Connecticut, New York to preserve the sound. It puts us in jeopardy in terms of our security, and it says to Connecticut taxpayers and New York taxpayers, you're going to pay for that security. It is the wrong project for the wrong time. We'll continue to oppose it. Thank you all for being here, and I believe we will and we can win this fight. Thank you.
Now, I want to recognize, before I introduce our U.S. Senator, his beautiful wife Hadassah, who has joined him today, who's come down to show her support as she does for so many important things. And Senator Lieberman, by the way, is going to give the 1, 2, 3 go-ahead following his remarks. So I'm just going to leave him at the microphone to send everybody into the sound to take this plunge. And so we're very excited that he's going to be making that statement. It has a special impact. Senator Lieberman has been a friend of Long Island Sound for years and years. We all know that he was a big force behind making the Sound an estuary of national significance. He fights for funding to clean up the Sound. He fights for funding to help get the lobstermen back in business. We know he's a winner. He's a winner, and he's fighting for us. So I give you U.S. Senator Joe Lieberman.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thanks, Leah. Thanks to all of you. Great turnout here today. As I said to the Attorney General, the turnout here today answers the question many of us have been asking for years. How many people would turn out to see Dick Blumenthal in a bathing suit? And it's a good crowd. People ask me, are you going to go in? I said, I feel that Attorney General Blumenthal represents me so well in so many ways that God bless him as he goes into the water. Listen, the case has been made, so I don't want to spend much more time making it. I'd say two things. On another environmental issue, unless we get the Bush administration to start doing something about global warming, the only polar bears that are going to be left are going to be the ones that are wearing costumes. That's our next great mission. Here's the point. I grew up in Stamford. I've lived my whole life along Long Island Sound. The first beach I went to was along Long Island Sound. I've lived in New Haven for the better part of the last 5 decades. And along the Sound as well. It is one of the great gifts that nature God has given the state of Connecticut. We have worked very hard in our delegation state level to clean up the Sound over the last decades. Just last year we passed the Long Island Sound Stewardship Act, which will do that in an even better way to fund acquisition of spaces to get people to the Sound and preserve its natural beauty and diversity. All that will be put at risk by putting a monster liquid natural gas terminal in the middle of the Sound. There's a lot of applications for natural gas to come in to the Northeast. In my opinion, this is about the worst place to put it. So I stand with all my colleagues, and I believe all the people of the state of Connecticut. We filed statements with FERC. We will be represented before these hearings this week. I asked the people of Connecticut to come out at these hearings to let the commissioners know how deeply we feel about it, how angry we are. It's our water. It's not Broadwater. Now, are you guys ready, and ladies and gentlemen? Senators, to your mark. Get ready. 1, 2, 3. Plunge into our water, and let's keep
We'll come back when there's snow on the ground.
Yeah. All right. That's a challenge I'll take. Totally unique experience. Different environment.
Town council. I am the only elected Democrat on the 15-member council, and I represent District 3.
Let's get that on tape now.
Okay. Senator Joe Lieberman, it's always nice to see you here in Branford. You were here last for the road race, and this is, of course, a much more important cause. Could you tell us about this?
Well, it is. I mean, we're all riled up about the application by this conglomerate to put a monster liquid natural gas terminal in the middle of Long Island Sound. It happens to be on the York side, but it's our sound. And this is one of the great gifts that God has given us in Connecticut. I've lived my whole life along Long Island Sound, Stamford and New Haven. It's a treasure. And we've come a long way in cleaning it up. Passed a bill last year called the Long Island Sound Stewardship Act, which will allow us to protect some of the natural diversity along the sound and open up some areas that are not open now to the public to enjoy the sound more. So why in the midst of all that would we put that at risk by putting this liquid natural gas terminal in the sound? There are a lot of proposals for bringing more natural gas into the Northeast. Broadwater's is about the worst.
Now, Joe, you were recently appointed the committee chairperson on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. What's the climate down in Washington about something like this?
Well, you know, it's mixed. But in the Connecticut delegation, we're all against it. I'd say if you ever could put this to a vote, that a majority of members of both houses would say, yeah, we need to provide more ways to get natural gas into the Northeast. But why would you put a terminal in the middle of Long Island Sound? Doesn't make any sense at all, and it's a real threat to the beauty of the sound and the purity of the sound, and frankly to a lot of money that comes from aquaculture and from recreation on the sound. So we're going to do everything we can to push the levers to make sure this project never happens.
Joe, we really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you for coming to Branford again.
All the best. God bless.
Thank you. Hi, who do we have here?
We have Kate Johnson.
Gabe Johnson.
David Johnson.
Will Tobin.
Jake Dittis. Sherry Neiman. Katie Neiman.
Anna Johnson.
And Anna, how was the water?
It was cold.
Now, this is a whole family here, is it?
Yeah, a family.
Except for him?
Extended family. Extended family.
He's just a friend. He's not family.
Yeah. Well, he's the sort of family. So.
Okay. Are you guys from Southern Connecticut?
Yeah, Hamden.
Hamden. Okay. And is this your first polar plunge?
Yeah, it is.
And how was the water?
It was freezing.
Freezing. It was warm. It was like a bath in there. How did you find the water?
Yeah, I found it quite cold.
How long did you stay in for?
About 3 seconds.
Were you chilly?
Yeah, I was actually more chilly here than I dove in Alaska water, and it was warmer than it is right now.
Okay, I want you to give your sister a bite of the chili, and she'll see how the chili is.
It's not my sister, but she can have it. It's not that warm.
No, it's kind of cold, but it's really good.
It's cold chili.
Yeah, it's cold chili, but it's good.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for coming out. Give us a big wave, big presidential wave. There we go. And I hope you guys come next year. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. I'm here with the better half of the Lieberman family here. I have Hadassah. Hadassah, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's gorgeous outside, even though it's a little weird because it's January.
Okay. Now, what does polar bear mean to you?
It means you dive into the water with a bathing suit on.
What we thought.
But now, I mean, I thought you could wear a whole, one of those suits, the wetsuits, and apparently you're not allowed to. Yeah. The rule is you've got to dive right in with your bathing suit on.
Maybe in Alaska or Maine they might change the rules on that just a little bit. Now, you have a polar bear here, too. Did this polar bear take the plunge?
No, because he's too cute, and if he gets wet, that'll be the end of him. But some of the others, like Attorney General Richard Blumenthal took a plunge. I told Joey that he ought to try today, but he, remarked he took enough plunges earlier in the year.
Now I know that Joe used to be involved in a lot of the road races, but he's had some problems with his knees and stuff. How's he? Is he still jogging?
We're not jogging. We're walking quickly, but we're mean, quick walkers.
Okay.
So.
Will you come down for the Father's Day festival this year?
I hope so. If we're around, love to.
Okay, 'cause I know Joe came last year, and we got some great food and pancakes and everything. Hadassah, it's always nice to see you.
Nice to be here, and nice to be here for the environment.
Okay. It's always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Here was Second Selectman Dick Sullivan. Dick, you took the plunge. How was the water?
It was great. It was great. I didn't see you in there, Peter.
No, it's too cold for me. I mean, I have to have 98-degree bath water. But anyway, you went out there and...
I can't say I made 3 minutes, but I was in there over a minute.
Okay. And then you immediately changed into some warmer clothes?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Did you find any clams or lobsters or crabs while you were in there?
I didn't think I went out far enough, Peter.
Maybe a little.
Maybe I went out to the 5 feet mark, but there are no lobsters in that far.
Maybe a winter flounder or something like that.
I think next time I'll go out on a boat.
Okay, that's the way to do it. Dick Sullivan, always nice to see you. Thanks.
Same Thanks, Pete.
Oh, by the way, how was the chili?
Chili's delicious.
Wasn't that hot, though?
Spicy hot, but not.
Spicy, yeah, kind of, yeah.
It's a lot warmer than the Sound, I'll tell you that.
Well, next year we'll have our fire pit out here, and we'll just warm the chili up.
Good.
Okay, good to see you. Thank you. Who do we have here?
Betsy Zeller.
Betsy, did you take the plunge today?
I did not.
You did not. Why not?
A little too cold for me.
But you're down here to support the cause?
Yes.
Now, you recently had an internship with somebody. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I did a fall internship with Senator Chris Dodd down in D.C. It lasted about 4 months, so it was a very good experience.
So are you going to change your major to political science?
It's already history with a more going towards the politics side of things. So,
ladies and gentlemen, you could be looking at the next governor of the state of Connecticut.
yeah.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see, who do we have right over here? This is your grandmother? Hi. Why don't we look just right over here? We'll look at Victor. Hi, what's your name?
Nell Kinney.
Nell Kinney, and you came down here in this cold weather to.
Because I have a grandson that went in, Steve Kinney.
Steve Kinney actually I went to school with Steve Kinney. Did you actually take the plunge yourself?
Not me.
Have you ever plunged in cold water like this?
I got a little more sense than that now. Oh, a long time ago.
How many children do you have?
12.
You have 12 children. Are they all here in the Branford area?
Yeah, a lot of them are. Not all of them.
Okay, now if each of your 12 children had 12 children, you'd have a gross.
I would. I've got a lot.
That would be 144. How many grandchildren do you have?
How many do I have?
There's too many to count.
Kathleen.
Mom, how
many grandchildren do I have?
You have 29 grandchildren and
A few more on order?
yeah, she's got great grandchildren. No, she's got 10 great grandchildren right now and another one on the way. So she's got.
How many members of the Kinney clan came down here to do the plunge?
Only one.
That would be Steve.
That would be Steve Kinney. He did the plunge. That's right. Yeah.
Can
Substantial audience, though, don't you think? 25 Kinneys here today.
and you are a Kinney?
Yes. Yes.
Within 10 seconds, can you name all 11 brothers and sisters? And begin.
Frankie, Billy, Mimi, me, Johnny, Michael, Jimmy, Tommy, Danny, Stevie, Donald, and Patrick.
Sold. We have the Kinney family, longtime Branford residents, right down here at Branford Point, to root on Steve for the polar plunge. Here with one of the organizers of the event, we have Lonnie Reed. Lonnie, how did things go today?
This was such a great turnout. You know, we were competing with the holidays to get the word out, and to have so many people show up in the beginning of January when everybody's sort of getting back to work and very busy, it shows you the depth of concern about this Broadwater proposed project that they want to stick in our sound, and to have people so enthusiastic and so, you know, in love with Long Island Sound, no matter what the temperature, is a great thing.
And we had just about every single dignitary in the area show up. How did you pull that one off?
Well, we sent out the word, and I have to say we are so lucky in our area to have people like Senator Ed Meyer and Pat Widlitz. You know, we have people who really care about a lot of environmental issues, not just Long Island Sound, and a lot of other issues as well. They also are very smart economically. They're not, you know, sort of hotheads who don't really understand the issues in depth. They understand the issues in depth. They know that we need energy. They want to make the smart decisions, and they're working at the state level to make sure that we get state legislation that encourages alternative sources, so we're not, as I said earlier, you know, all hung up and addicted to foreign imports to keep our lights on.
I know we included this earlier in our broadcast, but Lonnie, what can the citizens of Branford, Connecticut, and New York do to help this cause?
Well, I mean, one of the most important go-to places is savethesound.org, savethesound.org, and that really spells it out for you. We need you to show up at events, and you can see on savethesound.org, you know, where those are going to be. We have one in New London on Tuesday, January 9th at 7 o'clock at Mitchell College. We have one in Branford, Connecticut on January 16th, Tuesday, January 16th at Branford High School at 7 o'clock. These are FERC hearings, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission hearings. These are 5 people who have been appointed by the president who have the power to decide whether Broadwater lives or dies, and lives in our water, in our water, not Broadwater, as we love to say. So we need people to show up. We need people to speak out. And if you have any particular area of expertise, if you're a scientist, if you're a sailor, if you're a fisherman, if you're a mom and dad whose kids love the sound and you don't want to see it polluted, and you don't want to create a terrorist target and float it in Long Island Sound that could endanger endanger our populations, then you need to show up and you need to state your case.
So we encourage you to get there early so you can sign up, and you'll have, what, a couple of minutes to speak?
Yes, I got to keep it short. So I always say, don't, as we say in the news business, don't bury the lead. Put your headline right up front. Tell them right why you're there. I'm a scientist. This is toxic to our kids, or whatever you want to say. Make sure you don't go on and on. Get it under 2 minutes, I think, and really make a punchy case.
Lonnie Reed, one of the founders of this organization, want to thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, and you keep up the good work too. And thank you so much for turning out and for really doing this. This is great.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Lonnie.